Sonic Boom Episode 16. Closed Door Policy. A monkey gets a coconut exploding on him, an oddly non-anthro monkey, and Eggman amusingly says that no one can stop him from making every coconut a harmless bomb. We see him send spider robots to do his job. Sonic actually lampshades that Eggman's plans are weird, and the heroes are shockingly already right there to stop them. Amy's a know-it-all, somehow psychologically analyzing Eggman based on his plan. Eggman denies that he has mother issues, but since we'll see him with a mom bot later instead of his actual mother, he has to have mother issues. The heroes kick the coconut bombs over to Eggman while soothing music plays for comedy relief. It sure is lucky for Eggman that he for some reason made the coconut bombs pathetically weak, or he would have been killed. What was the point of him making those bombs so weak? Then Amy hears some noise and asks Styx if she's okay, and then is horrified to learn that Styx is a hoarder. There's a pun because after she's called a pack rat, she says a literal pack rat is right there. Amy decides to get rid of her stuff and do a yard sale. That easily? Styx didn't try to stop her? Then she's not much of a hoarder. A hoarder would be way more resistant. After Sonic unnecessarily says that Amy's being to take charge-ish, even though Styx does need help, Styx naturally is resistant to someone buying her stuff. And why does Tails bother asking for Knuckles' advice on whether he can make something with something? Sadly, Eggman can't even manage to steal from the yard sale successfully because Sonic is out of nowhere right near him and catches him every time, when there's no indication he was near him. It's pathetic that Eggman can't even get away with something like petty theft. Why doesn't he show up in a missile-shooting Eggmobile and use a vacuum on it to steal everything? Why on earth would he come here on foot? He's not a normal person, so why do they keep treating him like one? Knuckles shows some depth for once by saying that Tails is just using big words to make him feel stupid. I feel bad for him, kinda. He actually acknowledges his flaw. And some ominous music keeps playing and stopping after Amy takes some stuff to steal, to sell. I guess this foreshadows a curse being activated. Styx panics because the surfboard was there to keep the cave of evil beings shut, and Amy just sold it. I couldn't hear what Styx said after the surfboard thing because her voice sucks. All the heroes try to lean against the monsters to keep them from escaping. It's predictable that they'll fail. I love that Sonic says Amy totally deserves to be made fun of. It's good that he dislikes her instead of her being a Mary Sue. Good thing for the heroes these monsters actually aren't violent because they would have killed them by overpowering them by now. But somehow they don't even try to bite. Our time is wasted with dramatic music for a while, showing all of the heroes getting stuff from a yard sale one by one. An entire crowd of those monsters try to sacrifice Styx. How did she get out of the ropes tying her to the stone bench? That was just insulting. I think she bit him, but that doesn't explain how she got free. She's not even Sonic. Then the heroes throw a table at the bad guys, and Amy lies that she knew the stuff would come in handy, and Sonic satisfyingly calls her out. Amy starts throwing beehives at the bad guys. See, this is how you make the show's action scenes interesting. Tails then shoots a ray gun at something, but after he celebrates it working, it somehow vaporizes itself, but somehow doesn't burn Tails from convection. The show really doesn't want Tails to be competent. The minute he celebrates making a useful invention, it gets destroyed, or forgotten, or fucks up. Even in AOSCH, even in that one episode where Tails did make inventions, they all worked perfectly. At least AOSCH was honest about Tails being incompetent. This show pretends otherwise because he's an engineer who fights the bad guys. The bottom line is, the heroes beat the bad guys in a way that's completely forgettable after the Tails part. I just know that it was underwhelming and anticlimactic. And Styx thinks the bad guys won't get free, but it's amusing that their leader looks on the bright side that he loves the way Styx's furniture brightens up the place. How are these people staying alive in an underground cave that should have no access to food, water, and toilet paper? How does it have indoor plumbing? Sure was merciful of Styx to just trap them instead of getting Tails to build bombs to blow them all up. I was surprised they could even talk. I thought they'd just be mindless monsters, not actual people with weird names wanting to take over the world. This episode was about Amy selling Styx's stuff because she's a hoarder, and unlike hoarders in real life, she didn't make a big drama about them trying to get her stuff to a yard sale and burn bridges in the process. Instead, we magically cut to the stuff being at a yard sale without getting to see how they got to that point so easily. I loved seeing the coconut bombs from the Sonic games factor into the story, but logically Eggman would have made them way more effective than that and got himself killed. And Knuckles killed. They weren't even hurt. Anyways, then some random army of monsters escaped Stix' cave because Amy sold something keeping them trapped in the cave. I'm glad that was a genuine twist. I thought Amy had activated a magical curse like in Sonic X when the hourglass was moved. It's fascinating to see Stix proven right about one of her hundreds of delusional ramblings for once, so no wonder she's reinforced about them. She lives in a crazy world, so she believes crazy things. I'm really glad the main villain of the story wasn't Eggman for a change, but it really was lame that Eggman couldn't even get away with petty theft. Sonic always revealed himself to be right there watching him from off-screen when there was no indication he was near him. That always felt like a cheat. It's unbelievable that he thought showing up without any weapons was a good idea. Why doesn't he just threaten the heroes with a ray gun and steal stuff that way? At that point, even the average robber is more threatening than him. When I said that Eggman should have come here in the Eggmobile to steal stuff with missiles in a vacuum, I assumed that this actually would happen and be the climax of the episode. That would be more predictable though, and then I find his loss disappointing because he wouldn't even be able to get away with stealing stuff that way when AOSCH Robotnik stole stuff successfully all the time. He eluded entire villages. And that was the silliest Sonic cartoon ever, which proves that a cartoon doesn't have to have Robotnik be a pathetic, unthreatening joke to be lighthearted and silly. This show went overboard. I refuse to buy that he couldn't even steal stuff from a yard sale right. You're supposed to have him at least get minor victories. When I first saw him acting suspicious, I assumed he'd actually get away with it. That we'd just see him do it for a few seconds, and that'd be the end of it. I didn't think Sonic would stop him. I thought he'd just hide it in his shirt, which shouldn't be hard. And it'd be a good villain moment for him, showing that yes, he is a bad guy, and this is what he tends to do every day. So this is why we should root for the heroes instead of him. It's a bad thing when I'm rooting for him, from sheer desperation to see how his success would be like, because the status quo is so boring. I'm annoyed that he didn't get away with stealing because this show makes him the underdog because he always loses and his robots all die in one attack. He's too incompetent to be believable, so I want him to succeed sometimes because it's good writing. There's a reason that in most of the classic era, Robotnik was in a threatening position of power and was capable of getting away with bad things. Because it was a deliberate narrative decision that prevented him from being seen as the underdog, which would be a problem for an action series where he's supposed to be the antagonist. But here, he's more sympathetic than Sonic is. He's more likable than Amy is. He's more interesting than Knuckles and Stix are. And I don't even like Boom Sonic. My point is, this was a creative episode, and it was nice to see the heroes humanized by being at a yard sale like normal people. What's wrong with the Sonic characters doing normal people things for a change? When it's not overdone as the plot of the whole episode at the expense of genuine action and tension, and really boring, it's good writing to have these normal people moments for them. It makes them relatable and more believable, instead of them just existing to fight badniks and bad guys like in Fleetway. Episode 16-2, Mayor Knuckles. I hate the mayor's voice. He sounds like a stereotype. He says he has to stamp the town's laws and he's too busy to go fishing, and he wishes there was someone to cover for him, and they keep staring at the door. Sadly, the fourth wall is broken, as he says, so we can get the story started. Dumb. Knuckles shows up out of nowhere and gives someone a written demand for the mayor to help with. The mayor tells him to stamp some laws while he fishes. Somehow. And since a civilian goes up to him asking who's in charge, Knuckles says that he is. Then Stix gets woken up because the mayor's office approved construction of a new mall right next to Stix's house. I had the biggest smile at that. To be fair, it's the mayor's fault, not just Knuckles. I love how angry Stix is. Knuckles approves adding new wings to the library, and he approves someone's parade through town to celebrate his half-birthday. Half-birthday? That's dumb. He also approves moving sidewalks for the town. The town could go bankrupt from approving too much. I like that Sonic thought it was funny that Knuckles said he's doing his civic duty. It's ironic to see that Knuckles is being so much more of a people-serving politician than the selfish ones in real life, and it's showing how even that can backfire. Stix is naturally angry at Knuckles, and Eggman asks where the garbage man is because the trash hasn't been picked up yet. So Knuckles stupidly reveals later that he had given the garbage man permission to take a vacation. That's dumb. It's amusing that Eggman says it's bad enough he has to look at Orbot and Cubot. He doesn't want to look at failed inventions all day. And Orbot complains about being insulted too much. I like that Styx has enough depth and intelligence to acknowledge that the government can do good things. She's told that they're responsible for the fire department and sewer system, and she says she wouldn't want that responsibility. Amy compliments the moving sidewalks, and Styx complains that they're trusting Knuckles too much, being rightfully paranoid again. Knuckles approves a long list from someone without reading it. Wow. And somehow Eggman's able to walk into the mayor's office with no security. How is he not banned from the mayor's office? Apparently, someone needs to have approved permission to shout woohoo in public. Isn't that already legal? Then we see some people arguing because Knuckles approved multiple constructions in the same place. Then it turns out that thanks to Facetious Beaver, it's now illegal to check out books. And he's happy about it somehow because he thinks books aren't meant to be read somehow. Bad writing. So the political system works by actual civilians submit laws and the mayor approves them. So it's like Sweden, where it's a direct democracy and people can challenge the laws individually, except here, the civilians are actually submitting laws of their own. I wish our system worked this way. It makes so much more sense. It's great to show how well the village is run so that we really know what the heroes have to lose if Eggman does take control of it. Sonic tells Eggman that they need a plan because Knuckles is screwing up, and Knuckles actually tells Dave to leave, and Dave accuses him of being in the pocket of Big Peanut Butter. Then he wishes Knuckles would install universal healthcare law, and he doesn't. Wait, so, the village doesn't already have that? So the village is utopian enough that any civilian can submit a law for approval, and all laws have an equal chance of being approved, apparently. Because we haven't seen any lobbying or any corporations submitting laws. But it's not utopian enough that being sick or injured doesn't make people go bankrupt from hospital bills? What is wrong with this writer? Make up your mind. Do you want the village to be in great shape or be a dystopia? What a biased writer. Because he's being annoyed, Knuckles then outlaws using weapons, mayonnaise, spin dashes, and inventions. Then out of nowhere, it turns out there's already a law saying that he can have ultimate power, and all he has to do is stamp it. But since it's out of ink or whatever, he can't do it. Then there's actual tension because Eggman gets it. Why was Sonic expecting Eggman not to try to take over the city? Eggman says that his first order of business will be to strip garbage men of all vacation time. Wouldn't it have been more interesting if Eggman was the mayor for an episode? Why couldn't they have done that? That was the obvious idea. At least here I can understand where his law is coming from. And I can understand why he does a spiteful laugh, so it's not him being one-dimensionally evil for no reason. Already he might make more sense. Knuckles then reveals that he'll have to take a number because he wants to change management. So he sends a bunch of badniks into the mayor's office. Knuckles punches and kicks one of them away and destroys one as well. Sonic tells Knuckles that he has to let them fight. Why? He's doing perfectly by himself. Finally, he does a shockwave attack for once. But it doesn't matter because Eggman gets the convenient ultimate power law that no one would ever submit. At least this is some great tension. Styx throws something at Eggman, and then the mayor shows up and is horrified. I like seeing Styx look paranoid at him. Eggman asks when he can get his trash collected, and is told to take a number instead of told to take off because he's a criminal. Seriously, I wish they explained that the mayor already tried to cut Eggman off from civic services like trash collection. But then he sent an army of robots after him every day until he stopped. So the town's only supporting Eggman out of fear. That would explain why he hasn't been arrested and put in prison for all his collateral damage. Who would actually succeed in taking him to jail from his base? Realistically though, you'd think that someone would bring a bomb to his base, because everyone knows where it is. They have to, it's not hidden. This episode was about what the village would be like if Knuckles was the mayor, because he fills in for him when he wants to go on a fishing trip. Well, there are irresponsible mayors in real life, but I don't think any would be that irresponsible. So the whole story was forced by an idiot ball from the start. But it's a politician, so it's not too hard to believe that he's an idiot. It's here where we finally learn how Boom Knothole is being run. The civilians submit written laws of their own, and it's up to the mayor to decide whether they should get the stamp of approval or not. So that would require the mayor to be extremely educated about law and stuff so he can do a good job. And the civilians, of course, wouldn't be educated. so realistically most laws would not be qualified for the stamp. So shouldn't he have told Knuckles to not approve anything? Wouldn't that have been the obvious thing to tell him? Still, it's fascinating to see such a direct democracy. This kind of utopia is the kind of thing they could lose if Eggman takes over the world. It was fascinating to see Knuckles' lazy actions backfire on the town. A mall's going to be built near Six's house. 3 different buildings are scheduled in one place, and taking out library books is now illegal. Because apparently that Beaver thinks books shouldn't be read. It showed how creative the writer can be that he thought of all that. It was kind of horrifying to see Knuckles approve an entire list without reading it. He could have legalized all the drugs. And because even he doesn't know what he approved, he can't tell the mayor to reverse the decision either. So they just have to hope it's obvious enough that they can spot it. It was interesting that eventually reality ensued. Knuckles went mad with power. And it felt more logical that it happened because people were annoying him, specifically his friends. Of course he'd have a lot of pent-up resentment for them for all the times they treat him like an idiot. Well, I say that, but they're surprisingly polite to him most of the time. I can only remember the Boom comic having one of his friends constantly call him an idiot. Naturally, because we already know he is. So being told that he is does nothing but explain the joke, and make Amy look like a jerk. I love the source of tension where Eggman almost took over the town, but the actual source of that conflict was a ridiculous Diabolus Ex Machina. There's no way anyone would submit a paper that Knuckles could stamp, giving himself ultimate authority. And even if it did exist, that paper wouldn't give Eggman authority from stamping it himself if it specified that Knuckles would have the authority in the writing. And of course it would. It'd be much faster to write down Knuckles than the person stamping the laws. Also, logically, Knuckles would have undone the mall construction near Six's house right after she got mad at him. Because she's supposed to be his friend. And he's supposed to be a good person. So why didn't he reverse the decision to remind us that he cares about her? To remind us of the logical perks that his friends would get being friends with the mayor. There's no way he'd inconvenience his friends as the mayor without intentionally being a spiteful jerk. Like, realistically, if Knuckles became the mayor, he would bother Sonic because he's his rival, but he wouldn't make the rest of his friends unhappy, except maybe Amy. But this doesn't take advantage of Knuckles being the mayor so much as an incompetent idiot becomes the mayor. But it's ironic because Knuckles is the exact opposite of what a normal, incompetent politician tends to be, because his problem is that he's serving the people too much instead of being selfish. Actually, that makes perfect sense with the problem from having one of the heroes of the world be the mayor. Of course they'd be too generous. Problem is, the show tries more to portray this as Knuckles being lazy because he doesn't read a list. But it'd be just as lazy not to stamp something. In fact, it required less physical effort to do that. So it has to be that he's being a people pleaser. As you can tell, this was a fascinating episode. Usually when we see how a country is run in the Sonic series, it's always either Eggman being a dictator, or the shitty Council of Acorns, or, well, the High Council of the Kingdom of Paulus was fine. They stayed out of the heroes' way, and they had elections, just like normal countries. This episode actually did something creative. But it'll be a huge missed opportunity if we never see a story where Eggman takes over the village, because if this is what happens when Knuckles is in charge, what kind of laws would Boom Eggman enact? I'm much more fascinated to see all of that, because Eggman's first idea for a law had nothing to do with bothering nature. It had to do with settling a grudge and keeping garbage men from abandoning their duty. That doesn't even sound that bad. Do garbage men even have vacation time? Wait, couldn't Eggman just get robots to do the job for them? That's how he's being spiteful to the garbage men in the village then. I hate that I have to just call it the village. It's a sign of really crappy world building when the average person doesn't even know the name of the setting. I haven't heard the world be called Mobius either. Thank God it hasn't been called Sonic's World yet. You'd have to be a complete idiot to think that's a good name in universe. It's Tails' world too. So since they haven't used that garbage name that was come up with in 2 seconds yet, I'll just call it Mobius because there's nothing in the show that says it's called anything else. Same goes for this village. We haven't been told it's not called Knothole, have we? Did I get told the name of the village and forgot what it was or not hear it? I hope not. But I don't think it's worthy of being compared to Knothole, so I won't call it that. Springfield has a name, and it's not like we ever saw a big sign outside the village with a name on it. So if there is a name, they aren't putting any emphasis on it. It's like the writer was too lazy to give it a name, or didn't care about the name. I don't think this village has been given a name. They care enough to give it its own political system, but not a name. The only reason I won't call it Knothole, aside from the fact that someone anti-Sadie M would bitch, is because it's still on an island with a jungle, an inexplicable desert and canyon in it. So it's different enough. Plus, Boom Knothole takes way too long to say compared to just calling it the village. Even if it is just one more syllable.